That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to Fishing Friday Live. We don't have anybody in here yet, but they will start joining here soon. We got hopefully everybody that was affected by the hurricane is recovered, that watches the show, and those
as much as possible.
And then those in Western North Carolina, you know, our hearts go out to you guys, in Eastern Tennessee as well, all over the state,
South
Carolina,
Florida,
yeah.
Georgia. Yeah, everybody was affected, but that Western North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee was sort of the hardest hit over there around Asheville and to the border. So definitely been praying for y'all. Yeah, it's been tough, a tough week in North Carolina.
Yeah, for
lots
sure.
of sad stories coming out. Lots of people still missing. Lots of rescuers losing their lives. Also, I think there was like 5 yesterday that passed, still trying to get to people. So, actually, I want to share a story just about that. We'll bring Destin on first, but I want to share a story before we really get going, just that I heard of just how resilient people have been. So, thanks, Conk Man Andy. Really appreciate that. Before we get rolling, as always, I want to make sure we shout out those that make it possible. OneCast Fishing. You can head to onecastfishing.com. Use the code the OneCast at checkout. Save 10%. Get the snagless jigs, long neck hooks, the weedless neds, all of the good stuff. Soft plastics, especially. I almost said especially the Nighthawk. Make sure you grab you some Nighthawks.
That's right. Also, head on over to if you guys are looking for outdoor apparel, whether it's UPF shirts, hats, gloves, neck buffs, things like that keep us protected from the UV rays and keep those mosquitoes off from us during hunting season, which it is right now. Head on over, get that new Buck Stopper shirt from Carolina Waters. They've been supporting the show since its inception. So you can use, you can head to carolinawatersnc.com and use the code the OneCast and support those who support us the most and save a little bit of change in the process. Also, when you're on the internets, use the link, not a code, use the link that Pete always drops in the description. And head on over to hobiieyewear.com. We were supposed to make it down to Winnsboro, South Carolina this past weekend for the Field and Stream Music Festival. Unfortunately, that was one of the areas that was impacted by Hurricane Helene. So that show has been canceled and moved to next year. That was a variety of country music artists and things like that. But we were going to be down there supporting Hobie Eyewear. And they were going to do demonstrations of all their different options and stuff like that. But since that's not going to happen, we understand why. Head on over to hobiieyewear.com. Use the link that Pete has. Check out the new or the current floating frame series. They got tons of varieties for lifestyle wear, outdoor styles. They got prescription sunglasses and things like that. Use that link. You're going to save, like 15, 20% on your order. So you can get like $100 and something pair of sunglasses for $83, man. These things have been lifesavers this year. And we've definitely put them to the test. I can tell you that. So took a tungsten to the face from Pete's awesome wife, and it was not her fault. It was the fish's fault, 100% for not committing. And Hobie Eyewear saved my right eye for sure. And then lost a pair of glasses in the water and was able to turn right around and go pick them up. So check those guys out. They're awesome. What else can they check out, Pete? Go to your Play Store.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I was just thinking about something else about the glasses. Yeah. Before I talk about Deep Dive app, if you're gonna order a pair of Hobie sunglasses, or if you're not, go check out Hobie. They're doing a fundraiser for Western North Carolina, East Tennessee, all of that area. So if you have a little bit of money, you're looking for somewhere to donate that is going to help, you can check out Hobie Eyewear. They've got some stuff going on. But yeah, Deep Dive app. You can go into your app store, search the Deep Dive. Really cool app. It's got a lot of great features: water clarity, color flow, inflows to various bodies of water, wind direction. So it really cuts down time on checking wind blowing points and stuff like that, because it's going to highlight them a specific color for you. You can go in and see exactly which points are going to have the wind on them for the day you want to fish. All of this is done through satellite imagery. So it's not always exactly that moment up to date. It might lag a day or two. You got to check the date when it was taken. It all depends on satellites passing over if they can get a view. But it's an awesome app. We used it this year, certainly for success in our season that culminated in the 2024 points championship for the Fishers of Men's Central Division and got us into the national championship, which is going on in April down on Lake Murray. So we had a few derbies that played a key role in, especially the first one of the year before. And this is long before we even had the deep dive relationship with those guys. We were able to identify some cleaner water on the body of water we were fishing, which is Carr Lake, Bugs Island, depending on where you're at, what it's called. And that's where those fish were. And we ended up third place in that. We caught every fish on an area we identified through the deep dive app, and all of our fish came in like a 50-foot stretch, except for one. We did catch one
lucky sucker.
Last minute, we found a weed line and caught it flipping literally like 3 minutes before weigh-in to upgrade. But everything else, we sat on that 50, maybe 75-yard stretch of bank the entire day and just slowly caught some really good fish. Actually caught the same 4-pounder that I accidentally caught in practice.
Yep.
The day before I was
same
very
hook
upset.
Mark, same weight,
same exact same fish. So Trey, I caught it practice. Trey caught it in the derby. We both got a chance to catch that fish. So pretty cool stuff. But yeah, check out Deep Dive in your app store. I don't want to delay too much. We're going to talk mental health and resiliency with Destin Demarion. If you haven't listened to any of our episodes with Destin, don't know who Destin is. Former Elite Series pro, guide up at Lake Erie, out of Lake Erie, Pennsylvania area, Presque Isle Bay, all up there. So if you're up there looking for a trip, you can check Destin out. I'm going to bring him on. Then I'm going to tell one quick story that I heard from a friend just to show the resiliency of people over in Western North Carolina. We're going to talk about a giveaway that we have going on right now for our it's only going to work for our local North Carolina folks. So I'm sorry if you're not local. If you're traveling here though, and you might need some maintenance hint on your vehicle hint, we might have a little something for you. So let me bring Destin on. What's going on, Destin?
Hey boys, doing well. How you guys doing?
Good, man. It's good to have you back on. It's been a couple months since we've had you on to talk. Always,
yeah. I mean,
always a good.
It feels like forever, but I mean, I talk to you guys fairly frequently, so at least it's not like we haven't seen each other or heard from each other.
That's right.
We do.
Yeah.
So before we jump into the topic tonight, head over to our Instagram to anybody listening. Mike Nadeau, what's up? Head over to Instagram for anybody listening. There is a picture of a very specific vehicle maintenance facility that we have talked about, that we're friends with. If you comment on there with the name of the facility, we're only going to do one. We have more to give away, and we will at some point in time. But the first one to tell us the name of that place correctly, we're going to send you a free oil change, and that includes synthetic up to a certain liter. So it's free, conventional or synthetic. So if you have a new vehicle that requires synthetic, you're still going to be covered. It's not one of those like, oh yeah, it's a free oil change, but I got to still pay $40 because I'm a synthetic person. It's free up to, I think, 5 liters of oil or 6 liters. So
yeah,
pretty good deal there. Mikey Nadeau, what's going on, brother? Christine, D. Easker, everybody, thank you for joining.
She loves giveaways because she wins every giveaway, and it's not by design.
She's one of those lucky people.
Yeah, she's one of the lucky ones. Hey, before you jump into your resiliency thing, what I want to talk about these guys right here.
Yeah, but I don't want to say their name.
I can't say the name.
We're going to give it a couple minutes, and then we're going to circle back. So if you're not sure who we're talking about, we'll say the name at some point in the show.
All right. Well, they're doing awesome work.
We want to talk about resiliency, right? Like the mental fortitude. It's not something that's talked about with angling. You're gone on the road. How do you recover? We talk about, trauma is trauma and how people deal with it. But I heard a story of resiliency that stuck with me. I talked to our good buddy, Nick Kincaid. He's been on the show, Nick Kincaid, Toyota Series and fishes against us, but travels with us for Fishers of Men with our buddy Mike, who's on. He went over to Asheville. His church has been collecting donations, which I think they filled their 4th tractor trailer full of stuff today. Awesome. So, yeah, really awesome. They've had over $30,000 donated. They took that money and went and bought every generator at Costco, chainsaws, all that stuff to get over there. So, but he rode over there with the first load they took into Asheville, and they got to talk to some of the first responders. And one told a story that they rescued a 78-year-old woman on, today is Friday, so this would have been Wednesday morning. They found this 78-year-old woman. She had survived on a jar of peanut butter she had found. So they got her to the hospital, got her hooked up. Everything was good. She was cleared. 6 a.m. the next morning, she was at the, for lack of a better term, CCP, casualty collection point, where everybody was gathering, because she wanted to volunteer to help save people, because people saved her and she wanted to give back because people were there to help her. So that really stuck with me, and it just kind of shows what's going on over there, affecting so many people. And you know, that lady, God bless her, God bless everybody. I mean, other stories, for those of you that don't know how bad it really is, it's way worse than anything you've seen. I heard another story from somebody over there that's doing some work with drones, and they droned a small town, 1,200 homes, that's near Chimney Rock area, which was absolutely decimated. It was up a valley. They can't get there. There were 1,200 homes in this little town. They flew the drone over yesterday, and there's not even, other than the foundations, there's no remnants of the town being there. The homes are completely gone. There's no roofs. There's nothing to show that there was homes there. They don't know if those people got out, if they're missing. So that, I know people are getting frustrated with the lack of response, and we're all frustrated too. But when you start hearing those types of stories, they've got to try to find out if those people are missing, if they got out and they're at somebody's house in another state. And this is happening all over North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, down into Florida. So it's not great. So if you're able to help, I strongly suggest that you do try to donate. I know states from all over are sending donations, and they're getting to people despite what the internet is claiming, because we have firsthand knowledge. So just wanted to share that. Destin, your resiliency is a little bit different than what those folks are going through, but you know, it's still, you have to have a certain level of, for lack of a better term, how you handle the mental stress and just it's not really trauma, but it's hard being away from family. It's hard being on the road. You're still dealing with everything that everybody deals with day to day. And you've got to be out there and doing a job that you're fishing against Mother Nature, competing against her. And I know, Trey, you had some questions that were a little bit more specific than my explanation there. So, well,
I mean, first of all, the vignettes that Pete provided on what's going on in Western North Carolina is absolutely probably one of the closest things that I've ever seen to a foreign man-made or natural disaster. I've been a part of a lot of that stuff, whether or not it's responding to a massive mudslide or straight like terrorism, right? And it doesn't matter. And we talk about it. Pete said it. Trauma's trauma. And this does segue into this conversation, Destin. We had numerous conversations before the show about the things that really aren't talked about a lot just within the fishing industry, right? As you have competed at the highest level of professional competitive bass fishing, it hasn't came without its challenges, right? I mean, physical challenges, sure, but then there's the mental, emotional, and spiritual part of that really we talked about, where people are like, hey, you just need to be positive, or you just need to spread a good message, or you need to do this, right? But nobody really goes into like granular detail of what that does to you and your family and all those things. And now everybody is different, right? They all come from different backgrounds and stuff like that. But from your perspective, as you were from then till now, for you on the road on the Elite Series or whatever, what were some of the biggest emotional challenges that you had to deal with? And then the second part of that is, what were they? And then how did you navigate through some of those muddy waters?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a great question. Like you said, Trey, we have talked a little bit about it. So my mind is at least prompted from that. But I mean, I just want to start by saying, like, my heart goes out to everyone in, Western North Carolina, the whole way up, Georgia, Florida, East Tennessee, even eastern, western part of the state of Virginia, like, just got decimated. So, please, everybody, think about those folks and help if you can. I know, like you said, that lady survived on peanut butter. My wife just sent me something from someone she went to school with. that's trying to help a lot that's down in that region that said peanut butter is one of the main things that they're trying to collect for people, and beans. So if anyone's looking to donate, those are two staple food things for people to consider donating. But yeah, like you're saying, Trey, I mean, it's definitely a grind mentally. I mean, I know you've been through a lot just through your travels, and I mean, being in the military, you've seen things that, most people will never see. So, I mean, I know that's a level of, resilience that most of us, won't ever attain. But speaking about bass fishing wise, I mean, going on the elites, traveling, it's a hard life. I will say that. I think it is very idolized and sensationalized into what to expect, what it is. And I've been vocal about this for years, even when I was on the Elite Series, about being honest to these kids, being realistic of expectations of sponsorship and just, various things. But I mean, we can start on the travel aspect. You're going to be gone probably half the year in a truck, basically being a truck driver. It's a long, it's a long year. It's a lot of traveling. It's hard work. I mean, it's fun when you're fishing. It is a lot of fun, and it's a grind though. I mean, it takes on a whole nother meaning. People love to fish, but fishing for a living is a much different animal than just loving to fish and, just wanting to be able to fish all the time. Right. So there's a lot of people that would want that, but the reason why only certain people get to do that is because it's so competitive, right? Because everyone wants to do it. And I mean, everyone's been fed this, vision of what it looks like, and, all the sponsorship and all the things that go with it. But I would say that's definitely not accurate. But I mean, for myself, I knew just, being a co-angler, then, fishing opens and things like that as a boater / pro heading up, like I know what to expect. I know what the grind is. I knew how much time and energy it takes. So, I mean, I didn't go in naive, right? So some people do go in naive, and I feel very badly for them because it is a rude awakening once you get on the Elite Series and there's not a lot of help, right? So just to get to that point it takes honestly a stroke of God to even get into that position, because there's so much competition just to get the few slots every year that go to the Elite Series. And, it's just to do that is a grind in and of itself, but it's so much less so. I mean, now with the EQs, with having to fish 9, it's a little bit more intensive, like the elites, which is what they wanted to prepare people, which is good. But like when I made it, it was 2 divisions, which is going to be now this year, 2 4 tournament divisions, East, West, or East or Central at that time. I don't know if they're going to do North, South, or how they're going to do it for the opens. They haven't.
Sounds like North, South. Yeah.
Are they? Okay. That's kind of cool.
Sounded like, yeah.
That's nice. I liked the East and Central just because having a little North and South really shows you more of what the elite schedule is going to be, because being able to fish up north is nice, but there's only like 2 tournaments a season, if that. Like, I don't think they have any of them next year, so it's not going to really benefit you to be a more northern fisherman in that. But yeah, I mean, as far as the travel, like you just got to be prepared. Like you got to understand that your family's got to be super supportive. They've got to really be in your corner, and you've got to be able to keep everything, glued together, whether your family's coming with you, whether you don't have a family and you're a young guy. I mean, that's probably the ideal situation, right? But for me, I was married for a few months before I was on the Elite Series, and then I was married for, what was it? I was married for 1 year. So I was married for 1 year, and then a few months later, I started the season, and my kid was due for the second tournament, which was supposed to be Chickamauga until that flooded. So I got to fish St. John's. And then Chickamauga got rescheduled, and then everyone kind of knows how it went from there with COVID, because it was 2020. So
Yep.
we were uncertain if I was even going to be able to be there for my, kid being born, if I was going to have to leave during the tournament, how that was going to look, which there's a lot going, on the line there just for your career if you're leaving the tournament too. So, I mean, there's a lot of variables, that go into it. And that, I mean, those are the main things for me initially, but I mean, it definitely got tougher in the sense of just, the grind. Obviously I like that. But just all the ancillary stuff, managing sponsors. Towards the end of the season, my family had a bit of tragedy, I would say, with my wife had some complications after pregnancy. I was on the way to Lake Fork. I had to catch a plane in Dallas, come back. She had emergency surgery, and we got her in a decent place. But I mean, it changed our lives,
Yeah.
So that was hard. And I'd fly right back, and go to work, right?
Can you kind of go back to when you started talking about those initial expectations? If you could kind of like paint the picture for those listening and watching, like, how did you prepare for that conversation? Like, mentally prepare, maybe even physically, maybe do some push-ups or something beforehand. But how did you prepare for that conversation with your wife? And then you talked about the glue, you really need a foundational thing. So first of all, how was that conversation? How did you prepare for that, to say, honey, I'm leaving, in a good way though?
Yeah. So, I mean, her and I have, been together, I mean, minus a spat or two, over 10 years before that. Okay. So, she knew what, I was doing, what my goals were, even when I was 19 years old. So she understood that to some extent. I mean, you can't really know what that's like until you do it. And, we prayed a lot about it when we got married. And I said, I was like, if you don't want me to do this anymore, like, I'll make another way,
Mm-hmm.
And we prayed together about it. And she said, no. She's like, I want you to do it. And then I made the elites, like, not too long after that. And I mean, I think mentally we were prepared as much as we could be,
Yeah.
Things are going to happen. Like I said, I mean, a lot was crammed into the beginning of my first season. I mean, we had COVID. I had my kid, COVID, and then we had a family, tragedy, finished the season at the middle of November because they had to change the schedule. Yeah. And, from there, it just kind of kept going. But yeah, like you said, how did we know? I mean, it was a hard conversation, just me even being able to rationally be like, you know what, I have to be done with this because, my family's more important if I need to be. Mm-hmm. And if I don't have that support, then it's not going to work. Right.
Yeah.
And even if you do, you don't know because, things happen.
So when you talk, so you're on the road, you're gone away from your family, things happen, house issues, financial issues, family tragedies, things like that. When you go home, what are the things that you do to keep I know your wife is probably the rock, as most of ours are, but there's things that you do to make sure that you maximize as much time with your family as possible. You don't have to go into like, we play cards every night or whatever, but like, did you make the effort to plan on being there when you're there?
Yeah. As much as I could feasibly. And that's a good point. Like, obviously my wife's recovering. My kid is, still a baby and very much dependent on my wife. Right. So helping how I can. I'm still, when I'm home, I'm still working a full-time job. So yeah, I'm going home, I'm working, I'm spending the time that I can, with them and helping how I can. But I mean, in reality, can you be and do all those things with everything that you've got to do? I mean, it's hard. It's a hard balance to maintain, right? And I'm sure I didn't do it perfectly. I know that I didn't, right?
I don't think there's such a thing, by the way. I don't think there's perfect in any of this.
Right.
But I mean, I think it's, we talked about it. Like I said, people brief positivity and they brief, well, you got to have a foundation. Well, you kind of just talked about it, right? Like you got to have those hard conversations and they have to be honest. Yes. And then when you're there, your regular job, your full-time career is taking you away. And then your additional sponsor obligations are taking you away. And then other things are taking you away. So when you're present, you have to be there. Mm-hmm. Right. Or you're just going to be like another figure in the room with no attention. Right. And, I speak from experience and I did a lot of things wrong, or a lot of things worse. I think there's a lot of better and worse. And every time you left your house, you're not going into full-fledged combat, but you put your life on the line every single time you leave your driveway, especially in this day and age. Right.
Yeah. Even driving to work.
So you never know when you're going to come back, if you're going to come back. Right. That's a reality that I think people take for granted until tragedy happens. And then now we're like, holy crap, I don't know what to do. You know what I mean? So, I appreciate you walking us through the conversation. And then when you're there, whether or not, there as much as you can be, right?
As much as you can be. That's a really good way to frame it. Cause I mean, as you know, it's very difficult when cause you've been deployed many times and you have a family. So, when you leave just in any kind of, career, when you're gone for weeks, months away from it's hard to get reacclimated and get back into, their routine and having that equilibrium, with everybody. Sure. So it is a challenge, obviously, when you are on the road.
I'm going to ask one more and then I'll turn it over to Pete after you respond. So,
I do want to say Kevin Conroy. Kevin, welcome. He said Destin is one of the best managers of his time of anyone out there. It's like a superpower, and I'm always impressed by it.
Hey, Kevin. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, so I was going to touch upon, it's funny that I was literally just thinking about this. It's like, you would not believe how many people, Kevin Conroy was one of them, that just went above and beyond and did so many generous things for me, like in my career, a place to stay. I was passing through from Texas, some place to stay in Mississippi. I have friends, there. And Kevin, he's up at Lake Champlain. I've stayed at his place when he lived up there. Super, super nice dude, always helpful for me. And I mean, great guy. And just so many people around the country just, have done so many nice things for me. And that's a huge part of like, you can't do this alone. If you think you can, oh my gosh, you're gravely mistaken, because there is so much that goes into it, and the help of people, just as little as, or as much as someone can do. I mean, it's innumerably helpful. I mean, I'm eternally grateful for anybody who's ever done anything for me like that. I mean, it's just like, when I think about it, I'm just like, so I feel blessed that like, I've just gotten to meet so many cool people. Like that's one of the best things about fishing. Like even my Airbnb hosts, I stay in touch with some of them. Like I've just met so many cool people. My marshals, I stay in touch with some of those dudes, and I definitely keep up with almost all of them on Facebook and stuff, and just keep up with their lives. But it's just, I've just gotten to meet so many cool people through fishing. I mean, there's always so much good, out of the travels, that you have to be, really, grateful for.
Yeah, I agree. And you talked about it earlier, like a lot of young kids idolizing, or like we push, not I say we, but like, the high level competitive bass series pushing this narrative, when the reality is that's a great narrative to push, right? Like this is a great community to be a part of. People are willing to help you. You're willing to help them. It's that culture we always talk about. To me, that's the shiny object that most people are searching for, is like, dude, there I have a sense of culture and a sense of belonging and a sense of fulfillment that just, it's not, yeah, dude, I get to hoist a trophy. Got it. Right. Congratulations. You kicked everyone's butt that day. But those are the things that I think are very important for any youth or any person really that's looking to get into the game that you are in, especially at the highest level of bass fishing. Because I don't know about you, but when you got to the elites, there's another question I have, and hopefully I can remember it. When you got to the highest level, did you feel like the culture, like it kind of went away? Was it more like me, myself, and I outside of your small clique of people, or did it really feel like a sense of belonging there?
I'd say like a little bit of both. I knew a handful of the guys already because I've fished the opens. I know a lot of the guys just through that. I've probably drawn some of them as a co-angler when I was younger, and I've got to meet a lot of people. But overall, yeah, I'd say definitely more shifting to the me, myself, and I for various reasons.
Yeah.
It's very cliquey. I mean, like most things. And I'm pretty strong in my moral compass and like who I want to associate with. So if there's red flags and things that happen, I kind of want to distance myself from that. And sometimes at my own detriment, and I'm not perfect, obviously, but I mean, I'd rather not be around that and be by myself than be around that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Take the Rick Clun approach to it.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, like, we've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of elite series anglers and various levels, and a lot of them have said when they made it to that level, they thought it was going to be like this big fraternity and everybody was going to be shaking hands and slapping backs, and then you kind of get there and you get some folks that are really good stewards of bass, and they reach out and they make you feel like you're part of a brotherhood, for lack of a better term.
Rick Clun was one of the first tournament at St. John's. He came up and introduced himself. That was a super cool moment. I mean, because he's just such a legend in the sport. I mean,
yeah. I mean, that means a lot.
We've heard from a lot of young guys about Rick doing that, and John Cruz reaching out to introduce himself, and some of those folks.
John, he's a super cool dude too. Like, there's a lot of good dudes, no doubt. But it does become me, myself, and I, or if you're willing to fall into XYZ way of living, you can go to this clique or that clique, right?
I'm being honest. Like, I'm waiting until JT Kenny doesn't need bass fishing anymore, because he says he's got a book with dates and everything that went down, and he's letting her go when he doesn't need bass fishing anymore. And I can't wait to see that book, because there's gonna be some juice in that bad boy, and it's not fishing juice.
That's right.
I've heard and seen some things, but most of the craziest things I've just heard stories which have been corroborated by multiple sources. So I'm sure there's mostly true, at least, right?
Yeah.
Believe half of what you hear, or half of what you see, and none of what you hear.
That's right. That's right. So let's go back to talking the mental state, right? So you got your expectation management with your family, and you're doing your things that you can when you get home to keep the glue held together. Obviously, you couldn't do it without all the people.
What's up, Pete?
Jerry, Pete Dubs, and let's talk about the competitive scheduling that you have between. Now you're in a position where you have an amazing title sponsor, which happens to be your career field, right? Yep. But let's just take you out of the equation for a minute, or maybe you dealt with this yourself. You got a lot of people saying yes to a lot of companies. Yes, I'll take support. Yes, I'm going to do that. Yeah. By the time they say yes, they got maybe 15, 20 different companies. You
end up with a ton of competing.
That you're stretched so thin you don't have the bandwidth to satisfy all the requirements.
Great point.
Were you a part of that when you were on the Elite Series, or now?
I would say, like you said, I mean, I had a unicorn, amazing situation, like another thing, like extremely grateful. Like I can't even put it into words. I mean,
Yeah.
how that all worked out, with Dirt Edge. I mean, I've worked there for 10 years. They've sponsored me for the opens for 10 years,
Yeah.
starting back 10 years ago, I was 25, So,
Yeah.
I mean, the support that I've gotten from them, and it just increased, the perfect time, right when I was ready to make the elites. And I mean, I'm super thankful to Grant and his ex-wife, Amy. I mean, they were just amazing, and, blessings to, Megan and I's lives big time. And I mean, continue to be. So, that was a little bit different situation. I had a little bit different mindset with the sponsorship side. It wasn't really as much about just taking, whatever, and it was more selective type stuff at first, right? And trying to be, I might have taken a couple just because, but like I was trying to be a lot more selective, just learning throughout my career and just learning from other guys, and like, hey, this is okay, this is not, like, kind of like, this is how the business works. You're hurting other. So I actually ended up leaving a big sponsor specifically for the same reason that what I was taught. Like, you can't let these companies take advantage of anglers as a whole. So sometimes you need to lay on the sword, right? And you'd be like, nah, I'm leaving. Like, you might leave something on the table, which is going to potentially hurt other people down the road for negotiating, right? So I ended up doing that event. This is going into my second year.
So, I mean, you're obviously very seasoned, and maturity, I think, plays a huge role. And you're comfortable with yourself, and you're comfortable with telling a company no. But, there's a lot of young guys. There's a lot of people that get in this sport and they're just like, yes, man, like, yes. Right. And before they know it, they're jamming 100 pounds of crap in a 20-pound bag, as we like to say. Right. How does a young guy or a new guy or gal getting into the sport, what is some of the best advice you could give them when it comes to being selective, so that mental pressure, that stress doesn't creep up on them and they're like, I don't have time for my family. Even when I'm home, I'm not home, right? What is some of the best advice you could give them?
Yeah, it's hard because in fishing, like, there's so little and there's so many people trying to get pieces of this little pie, right? So it's become, I don't know. I used the analogy a while ago. It's the Hunger Games, right? So it's either you kill or you're going to be killed, literally. Like, you're that's how it is. So you've got this little pie, and this is you trying to survive, and then there's all these people trying to get it to survive too, and they're trying to kill you at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So then they don't have less competition. So it definitely creates a very, weird kind of atmosphere. I mean, like you were talking about, but especially now, I think it's even less. I think a lot of even big name guys are going to have trouble securing the kind of sponsorship that they're used to, because of the way the economy is, and the fishing always goes down when the economy's tough. But the advice I would give is, I mean, just know what you're worth, provide value, which is, I mean, performing obviously, but being a good business person, being able to market products, being savvy and professional. So those are things that I think get overlooked a little bit for the fishing side sometimes, but overall, there's only really 10 truly professional fishermen probably in the whole world. Maybe 20.
Yeah.
Okay. So all the rest of us are, yeah, we're really good fishermen. Yeah, and there's a lot of good fishermen out there. But the reality is, you need to have other skills as well as the fishing to be able to create a living and have a future for your family, and,
Yeah.
and not just be so short-sighted, right? I mean, I think you can do both while focusing on fishing. You just
Yeah.
have to know that every opportunity you get to do public speaking, it's an opportunity to hone that craft, right? Every opportunity you get to do different, work on different products and marketing campaigns and do like that, take advantage of that. Don't just, blow it over and just waste an opportunity to learn something that's going to help you. Because whether it's going to help you in your fishing career, or if you, end up just working in an industry or a different industry, you've got a lot of skills at a very high professional level, regardless. So
Yeah.
that's what I would say for sure. I know college fishing is big. A lot of college kids are getting marketing degrees and communications or whatever, and that's good.
Mhm.
There's only so many jobs, I would say, in that field. So I mean, broaden your horizons. Think about some other, get an MBA. Stay and go to grad school. Do that stuff, because you could have your own fishing company. There's a lot of
Mhm.
different things you can leverage, because I mean, being a professional fisherman or even being on the Elite Series opens a lot of doors. I mean, it does.
Sure.
Not as much as being like an NFL player or something.
Mhm.
You're gonna get 6-figure job offers. Once you're out of the NFL, probably at least $250,000, because
Yeah.
that's just how that industry works. They have a lot of connections to get you, onto the next step. So
Right.
really take advantage of those opportunities. I mean, you can love fishing and want to do it as a career and do everything you can to make that, but always be working on and honing your skills and, be an enterprising person. I mean, I always have other stuff going on. I've had
Yeah,
a
you
guide
do.
business. I've had a guide business. I've been involved with, managing the pro staff, social media accounts, events, product stuff. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, all kinds of different things. So
was there ever a point in your career so far where you just hit just a mental breaking point and it was like, I can't do this anymore?
I don't know if
Or if not you, somebody else that was close to you.
yeah, I don't know if it was like, I can't do this anymore as far as the fishing. I would say my second year, like you were talking about, spreading yourself too thin. I think
Yeah.
I leveraged my first season, which I had a pretty decent rookie season. A lot of doors opened, right? More paying sponsors, more opportunities, and I took them. So I think I spread myself a little bit thin, but on top of that, I knew what was going on with my family. Like we just had so much going on that it was like a lot more to deal with on the family side, and a lot more maintenance and stuff that I needed to be doing. You know what I mean? As opposed to maximizing the return on, cashing in all the hard work that you've put in for, 12 years, 10 years to get to where you're at. Right. So, I mean, that was definitely a challenging time. I think there was one point I had a couple really tough tournaments at the beginning for just various reasons, which somewhat inexplicable, but it never really, like, I wasn't down on myself or anything. I mean, I always know that I'm fishing against the fish. Like, I don't get down on myself too much. I used to beat the heck out of myself about it, and I'll still get irritated, like, man, why did I do that? But like, I'm not beating on myself other than just, man, I could have done this or I should have done that, but I'll do it next time. You know what I mean? I'll work on that. But my my wife was having a very tough time, with what happened, and it changed a lot of things. I mean, my wife had to, go on, permanent hormone replacement therapy. It changed her moods. It changed a lot of things for us. So it was very hard to communicate with her and I, and manage the kid and everything. It was a very, very tough time, and I don't know if I personally knew how to handle that very well. I think I did as good as I could, but that definitely wasn't, what I needed to be doing. As good as, as I probably should have left. I probably should have taken a hardship at that point just to manage that. And it went on for a couple of years until we kind of got her medications and stuff on the right level, where it was kind of a happy medium where we could, function, I should say.
Yeah. No, that's a tough thing to go through. And there's no handbook. Like, you just do the best you can do with the information you have. We don't know what we don't know.
I mean, I lean on people as far as like people that I trust. Like, I'm going to ask for, give me a straight advice. What do you think of this? I have a lot of older mentors. My one friend, Rich Damianos, has been like a father, throughout my time in fishing. And, I'd lean on him a lot for answers, but obviously, I mean, that kind of situation, it's tough. And I mean, I get a lot of differing opinions. Like, hey, you need to focus on what you're doing. You need to focus on your career, or the opposite. Right. So when you're getting conflicting messages, it's hard to kind of go forward with what you kind of just have to do what you got to do and make the best decision you can.
Yeah, I mean, we call it Charlie Mike, right? Like, continue mission, but that only lasts so long until you're just like, dude, like, and it sucks because in a tournament you can't make a phone call to somebody like Pete did with you and sit down and eat a sandwich and don't stress out about it. Just get back to fishing, stuff like that.
Right.
Let's talk about the new world of competitive bass fishing, and I'm gonna tie this to mental health. Now that everyone is so tied into these because of social media responsibilities, they're so tied in with electronics on their boat. Not a bad thing, but let's just be honest. They're staring at screens, then they're coming back home and staring at screens, and they're always staring at screens, right? And there's some that do it better than others, right? And some that have people that work for them that can do that for them. Let's just say over the last few years or so, as things have gotten a lot more heated, the pie is continuing to be, bitten off more by more people, and social media influencers are playing a bigger role, and anglers are almost in a matter of survival. It's like an artery retracting, right? Like they're just, have you seen the attitudes, maybe anger and things like that come out a lot more since we have gone more into isolation and social? We're being a little bit less social because we're so tied into electronics now.
Yeah. I mean, that's deep. Like, I think we're going to get philosophical here for sure, but
Let's do it.
Yeah, I do. I think you hit it on the head. I mean, we all see where being so connected and having everything at our fingertips is so, beneficial in our daily life. But I think most of us also see how it would be better sometimes if it wasn't, there, if you weren't able to get contacted any second of the day and have to be checking work emails till, wee hours of the night and doing that kind of stuff. I think it's changed our society probably in a negative light, as you're referring to, the anger and those things. I think, look at the debates and the just the passion, whether it's negative or positive, about even live scope and having it in tournaments and not. I mean, I've been involved with some debates there, but I mean, it was totally just back and forth, logical arguments talking about, the pros and cons, right? As opposed to some people like, you're this because you think that, you're that because you think this, right? I mean, it's kind of divulged into that with politics. It's divulged into that with everyday life because it's social media. You see extreme, right? All you see is the extremes, and that's what sells. That's what the social media algorithms, the YouTube, the Facebook, the Instagram, all that. It's shock and awe. It's only the extremes that sell, right? As far as you're willing to push things, as far as you're willing to go, and those are the people that excel a lot of times in that. And a lot of times those aren't the people you necessarily want in your society to be propagated, right? So there's a lot of problems with that. I mean, the trolling, the ego centrism, which, I mean, I think we all have somewhat of an ego, but it's just how far it goes, right? There's just a lot of things that negatively, I think it's impacted our sport in that sense. And like you said, influencers, I think that's created another dilemma, which is a lot of fishing industry companies and such are spending money on, YouTube and different influencers from social media. And there's not as much of this pie anymore for the, professional anglers, at the Elite Series level and even, opens and that kind of stuff because of that. But some guys are both, some guys are influencers and, fish the tournaments and stuff. But I mean, everybody's just trying to make a living and everybody's trying to, if you're getting positive feedback, you're going to keep doing it. Right. So it is what it is. I don't really know. I mean, I think that's a hard situation to try to unpack and try to come up with some kind of perfect media. I don't know if there is one, right?
Yeah.
And those two, whether it's influencers and tournament guys get after each other sometimes, and especially tournament guys, because I think they feel slighted because there's not as much money out there, right? Because a lot of influencers are getting it, but companies are trying to sell products, and people on social can sell some products. So, I mean, it is a free market. It's capitalism.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I just wanted to get your take on, kind of rewinding back to the beginning of the show. We talked about culture, friendship, fellowship, all those things that are very important I know they're important to the three of us. And let me just make this clear. Not a single one of us in this room is a licensed psychiatrist. We're just providing our own opinion on what we think the current state, what some of Destin's mental challenges, mental and emotional, physical, spiritual challenges were, and then where they may be heading, right? Which to me is frankly a little concerning, because we see relationships being destroyed over business decisions. We see that with our friends. We see people saying like it's divided. You're letting it be divided. I want to say that like that's a choice that you're making. You don't have to get so emotional that it compromises a friendship. Because I think later on, and it may not happen in the next couple of years, but later on, I can tell you from experience, like those relationships that you're willing to compromise right now may creep up on you later, and it's going to have an impact on your mental and emotional state, because you may not have any regrets about what you did, but you may feel some serious guilt. Right.
Yeah. I think that's a tough one because I mean, relationships being destroyed by decisions are since the beginning of man. That's been like, it's just human nature. Yeah. Somebody's going to make a decision and it's going to impact the folks around them. And then those folks are going to make decisions. So I think that's a tough one, but when it's something so, I'm trying to say this without being
so
our other podcast.
Yeah.
When it's something so meaningless, for lack of a better term, I have way better terms, but I'm not going to use them here. Right. Like forward facing sonar, like the divide when Bass and BPT split. I mean, you saw literal friendships that were decades in the making that were destroyed because somebody decided to fish with a different organization or not fish. When it comes to that, like, think about what you're truly doing, and is it really that important?
Yeah.
You know, because I just look at the Bible, Jesus was betrayed. Like, those decisions have been made as far back as literature and history has been written. Somebody's made a decision to betray somebody.
Yeah.
But most of that to them was over some meaningful thing. It was beliefs. Live scope is not a meaningful thing to destroy friendship. What organization you're going to fish with is not a meaningful thing to destroy a relationship or a friendship. So it's really hard to fight human nature. But if you think before you act, and I think one thing social media has done is it's made people react a lot quicker, even in their everyday life, and they make decisions based on emotion, and they can't remove emotion from situations and make logical decisions.
It's that instant gratification. I think we've all talked about it before, right? Like, as soon as you fire that message off or that text, it's gratifying, right? It hits the dopamine level. Yeah, the levels that you're looking for, and then it's like, crap.
It's an addiction. And
then all of a sudden you're hungry, like Destin talked about, for sponsorships and people to support your, you know, for lack of a better terms, your dream. And then now those relationships have been compromised over just a dumb act, really. And now you're like, I can't get a partnership with nobody. And then it just starts spiraling, right? And then guys are, you know, they're crushing their relationships with their families. You're right. And I may be making this way worse than it is.
I don't think you are. We have a case study. Jacob Fouts is the guy's name, and he decided to make a video on how he felt the industry was, and he lost the majority of his sponsors because they didn't agree with his decision. Yeah. And I'm sure it was a sort of spur of the moment thing. He didn't think about it.
Yeah.
He said he had big feelings about it, and he decided to make a video and post it. And we saw what it did. Yeah. Luckily, he backed it up this year with a second in AOI. He had a really good season because he never would have recovered if he would have went out and bombed. I think we all know that. Like, after making statements like he did.
Yeah.
But that's a perfect case study. Like, he went out, gave a very vocal opinion, and I agree with most of what he said. Not all of it. You do need to provide value to those companies, but there are things that he said that I agree with 100%. But the companies that were paying him weren't paying him to say that stuff. Right. And they quickly ended those relationships.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Destin. You're going to say something?
Yeah, that's where, it's kind of like, I liked certain things he said. I didn't like other ones, obviously. It's how the fishing industry works. But I feel for him, because I feel like when I listened to his, I was like, he was one of those guys that was duped. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There you go.
He was one of those young guys that are like, I catch bass. I like bass fishing. I'm going to do this. Like, that's the problem, right?
Yep.
Right. It's a business. First, this isn't the NFL. Like, you can throw far, you can kick a ball, you can tackle people, you're mean, like, you can push people around. Like, those are God-given skills, essentially, or just like gifts, right? This is a business that most people can catch fish. Some people will propagate given more resources generally. But you got to put in the work, obviously, to build a skill. It's kind of like being an electrician or something, but it's more similar to like that than it is like an athletic sport. You know what I mean?
When I don't think we've ever asked you this before. This ties into mental state, right? Maybe not you, maybe some of your buddies, because you had a unicorn of a sponsorship deal. A lot of these kids don't understand what they're entering into when they get into this game, when it comes to the contractual side of what they can and cannot say, right? Even though we have the First Amendment, constitutional protected speech, right? All that stuff.
Not when you sign a contract, though.
Not when you sign a contract,
also,
you don't.
That's a product of our failed schools, because this is the First Amendment only protects your speech from government censorship.
Yep.
Private entities such as a business can tell you what you can and can't say all day, and there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, like Meta, right? Like
That's right.
you actually do enter into a contract when you get on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, right? They're private, so they can stop whatever they want. But anyways, how much have you seen that when these young guys come into the game, they sign these contracts, and then they're like, oh, by the way, you can't say this. And has that had issues on people's mindsets after the fact?
Yeah. So I'm not going to talk about certain situations because they're definitely incriminating to certain people. But I've seen a lot of cases where you're conveying one thing because you're contractually obligated to, but you're the complete opposite of that behind closed doors or in public, right? So you're doing all these things and you're conveyed by an organization or a sponsor to be something else.
Yeah.
Right. So I think there's an element when you're living a duality of two different personalities that eventually it's going to blow.
There you go.
What I mean?
Yes.
And
I know exactly what you mean.
You know what I'm saying? I
Yep.
feel like, believe me, I have a lot of flaws, but I feel like I'm pretty consistent with who I am. Like, I don't want to say certain things if I don't think it's true. Have I maybe a couple times? Yeah, for sure. I've said things I'm like, why did I say that? But I try very hard to be the same person at least. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Good or bad. I mean, that's going to be subjective to who you're talking to, obviously. But I think you lose an element of trust with a customer if you are two different people.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's
people come to me a lot behind closed doors because I'll talk to anybody who's got a question or anything and ask me straight up for how I think of something a lot because I'll tell it to you straight. I always will tell you the truth. Regardless of who I'm sponsored by, I'm going to tell you the truth.
Yeah, man. It's like
Christine, she asks, why go with a sponsor if you're opposite of them? Is it just for the money? It's 100% people do just for the money.
It's 100% for the money. Like I said, I had a complete unicorn situation, and I never really had to worry like, oh man, I got to watch what I say because like I just wouldn't do that anyway. Like I'm not going to say something that's going to be bad to me or a sponsor because I just try not to do that. Right? That's just who I am. Yep. I try not to say stuff that's useless. I mean, there's been times in my life, especially when I was younger, that I did, and I learned. I learned quickly. Okay, this isn't helping. This isn't the right thing. This isn't who you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's saying that stuff, and I mean, occasionally, I still make mistakes all the time, but I try to be consistent with that. And with how much money it costs, and obviously this dream that's been sold, you have to understand that you're under a lot of pressure to come up with this money, and there's a lot of guys that are rich, especially more and more because of the economy, that are in this sport, but there are guys that aren't, and they've got to do anything and everything possible just to get to that position to even be able to fish.
Yeah. So this is kind of going off Christine's topic about, just accepting, right? Just I'll take it, whatever you got.
Right.
From personal experience, there's nothing that's going to get you to start drinking or using illicit substances. Not that I have that experience, or get you in the door of a psychiatrist or a psychologist faster than compromising your moral compass. That will creep up on you any day of the week. Right. And so I guess to go to that, is that something from your perspective that you've seen happen in the industry where people are willing to legitimately compromise every belief that they have in order just to take a business deal?
Yeah, whether it's a business deal or just in general fishing, stabbing each other in the back. I mean, it happens a lot. I mean, I've had a lot of friendships that I've ended in this industry, and I mean, it happens, right? So, I mean, you live and you learn, and it is very cutthroat. I mean, it's very cutthroat.
How did you respond to that action? Did that play a huge role in your mental state? And was it extremely damning, or were you able to like shake it off, write it off, and move on?
A couple of times it did definitely hurt, you know, it hurt, but nothing super long term. No.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I guarantee that I've made people mad with certain things I did, whether it was intentional or unintentional too. So, I mean, I'm not saying that I've done everything perfectly too, but there's definitely been some times that I've felt very stabbed in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a hard blow, man. Like, and I think, you know, to kind of sum up this whole thing, you know, there's no book that tells us how to do it. You got to have friends that you trust. Right. And I think that's truly one of the systemic things that's missing in the world in general is trust. We're like, we don't know what to trust anymore. And the fishing industry is not excluded from that. You have so much, you know, backstabbing or whatever, what you called it, right? And so many people competing over so few resources that, you know, morals and integrity and ethics and things like that are compromised sometimes, right? This isn't our normal Fishing Friday, guys. Like, this is like talking like the truth, our version of the truth and the mental state. And it goes beyond fishing, but just in the fishing industry, it applies. And Destin lives it. You lived it at the elites. You live it now. You get to see firsthand inside like perspective on what's going on and how things are changing and how that's affecting people, right? Because without people, like you're not going to have anything, right? So we have people that don't trust each other anymore. I don't really know what the cure for that is, if there is one. But I do know that it's going to have long lasting effects on our youth that are trying to get into this game, which has widened the aperture big time with the opportunities it presents to these kids trying to get into this game. Right. And I think it's very important that Destin and us provide some truth bombs to that. Like, hey kids, check it out. Like, this is the environment that you want to get into. You need to understand it. You need to understand the mental side of it.
I can break it down in one sentence. Being able to catch a fish isn't enough. So if that's what you're banking on, you're not going to have a very long career.
Absolutely. Stephen Carey said, glad to be friends with Destin. You're a class act. You get so many accolades, Destin. You get so many accolades.
Probably not warranted, but
yeah,
come on now.
Stephen is an awesome guy. I love Stephen. He's been a sponsor for 12 years, 13 years now. Stephen, I think he was my first sponsor.
Wow. He's still there.
First or second, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dang. It's good to have friends like that.
What companies you guys?
Fish Sense Lures, the best blade bait out there. Many times knocked off since, but nothing duplicated.
What you mean, like blade bait, like with the two treble hooks or spinner baits? Because like people down here, like I threw a blade today. Yeah. I love blade baits. It is actually getting ready to turn into serious blade bait season down here, especially in November, December, January timeframe.
Oh yeah.
I mean, in my experience, we're talking fishing, but what has really helped me mentally in the winter times is those blade baits, because they truly catch them in that cold water when they're super lethargic and they're just waiting for like something that's just dangle in front of their face. So, we're some of those. What Pete's actually going to Sergeant Major Google right now and looking at them.
That's the Bensky blade.
Yeah.
So Stephen, obviously, when I started, I was a co-angler. Was not paid by Fish Sense, and he gave me baits though, always. When I made
that's
the
awesome.
Elites, I don't even think I asked, and he's like, "Hey man, I talked to my partner. We're going to give you some money," and he did both years. And I mean, that means a lot, dude.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Pete's trying to go to the site right now. I don't know if it's actually opening up.
It's giving a certificate error.
But we actually don't have the best internet going on right now. Like
you
truly
guys
to be
have issues lately.
Yeah.
There's like a something.
And we're not upset about our internet situation here by any means.
There we go.
I can tell you that. So, we've been going on the better part of an hour, and we talked a lot about just the expectation management, maybe that conversation with your significant other. Some of the things that you've done to successfully maneuver through like that mental stress, that emotional stress. And whether people believe it or not, that kind of stuff is traumatic to certain people. And so I guess my last question is for you, and then I'll turn it over to Pete. If you were to do it all over again from the mental and emotional perspective, would there be anything that you've learned along the way that you would have changed day one?
Day one, as in,
like, let's just say on the elites.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, day one, nah, not really. I would say by the end of the season, going into the second season, yes. I mean, my wife and I were in a very, very tough spot, in our relationship with everything that went on and just the strain that we were putting on each other in our, relationship. So, I mean, mostly my fault, right? So that is one thing I would probably change. I probably would have taken a hardship. I've thought about it, and I'm a man. I don't want to admit that I have a problem. Like in an emotional sense like that. And I was like, I'll just soldier through, right? Because that's what I've been taught. I was raised by a Marine. I mean, I saw the guy get his toes and his feet cut off in front of my face, and he never complained. I never saw him complain a day in my life. So, yeah, I mean that was the standard.
That's right. I don't want to cut my toes and stuff off, man. But
Mike Tomlin says the standard is the standard. We're gonna go with that.
Well, Destin, I appreciate it, man. I'm gonna turn it over to Pete for.
It's about time I get to talk.
Yeah, my bad.
It's only been an hour and 13 minutes of Trey show. No, you were asking good questions. I didn't have a lot. You got where we need to go. So awesome. Is it Steven or Stefan? Steven. All right. So he said the site has issues. Oh, well, there you go. Now we know your middle name.
Yep.
Steven Stefan?
No.
I thought my name was Stefan.
Destin Stefan? He said the site has issues to check out Tackle Warehouse. And as always, when I see a bait I like, I'll have 100 of them next week. So
Chelsea's not watching, is she?
I don't know if she is. She'll comment here in a second. Don't worry. She'll tell me you're not allowed to order any more tackle.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't have a lot, Destin. I appreciate you coming on. I do want to ask, like you said, we're getting close to that hour and a quarter. But what do you think about the new elite qualifiers? And are we going to see you back fishing the opens and trying to get back there?
That is a good question.
You don't have to make an official announcement, but how are you feeling about the potential of doing that again now that it's kind of more mandatory
on it? So, intrigued by the format. Obviously, like I said, 4 tournaments, in a series versus 9 is nice, right? More regional, nice, less travel. I think I'll consider it. I'm probably leaning towards no, but we'll see what the schedule is. Depends on the travel and, work and everything.
Yeah.
But
man,
I don't know. I don't know if I have the desire.
Question.
I don't know if I have the desire to really do the elites again. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I think where the industry is right now and just competitive fishing in general is taken, especially I know a lot of young kids are watching and probably still have that dream, but I always wanted to fish it until we started this podcast and I started building more relationships and talking to more guys to do it. And now I don't even know if they just called me and were like, hey, you can come to the elites and not have to qualify and we'll pay your entry if
It's
I would
divine
even go.
intervention, man.
Like just
It
the kind of the behind the scenes stuff that we can't share and stories and just the things that you have to go through to try to make it is, I don't know that I would enjoy fishing that. I really enjoyed our little tournament, trail fishing the Fishers of Men. We you know, we had a lot of fun. There was fellowship and there was enough competition, and it was 6 tournaments in like 4 months, and then you got the rest of the year to just go have fun and fish.
Yeah.
And
Right.
and there wasn't
seemed
pressure.
like you had a blast, like fishing
Oh,
together,
man.
and doing all that stuff. It's like I enjoy that too. Like the team tournaments, the local stuff, the camaraderie. That's just it's fun, and I
Yes.
kind of missed that. I think the more I do it again, the more I'm like, you know what, I'm almost good with this, right?
Yeah.
The way the fishing industry is, like you said, Pete, it divine intervention. I think when I was done, you know, with the elites, the timing, you don't understand at the time.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is, like, God doesn't do anything without a reason. And I mean, it's kind of taken time, and I've thought about it, and I'm like, you know what? He was protecting me from something, and
Yep.
the economy is trash right now. And
Oh.
when the economy is not good, fishing is not a good place to be.
Competitive fishing
Correct. Yes.
at that level. That's one thing that I want to.
It's not even just competitive fishing though. I mean, people are spending less time recreational fishing now. And
Well, and that's
you can
what
even look at
scares
our
me.
podcast numbers. I mean,
Yeah.
if folks aren't out fishing, they're not listening to podcast. Like our numbers have
gone down.
as
Yeah.
the economy takes it. It's the entirety of the industry takes that hit. Because if I'm not out doing it, I'm not going to watch and listen to it. I don't want to hear about fishing if I'm not fishing.
Yeah, that's true.
It just makes me want to do it. And then I look at my mortgage and I go, well, I can't do it this month because everything is so much more expensive. You look at that grocery bill, like
we
all
all
that
are
stuff.
paying a lot more, you know, just to live. And a lot of us, I mean, I've always had 2 to 3 different jobs going on at one time,
Yeah.
my whole adult life. So,
Yeah.
well, I mean, when I got out of college, and you have to now, like it's almost like you need, unless you have a really, really good high paying job, like you have to have multiple things going on just to make ends meet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the one thing I will say is I don't ever want to lose the reason why I want to be on the water ever, right? Yep. And that's reconnecting with myself, with my friends, right? With everyone around me. It's refreshing, it's serenity, it's all those things that I think when you get so hyper focused into the competitive side, which isn't bad, right? Competitive drive is great, it's good adrenaline and stuff like that. But whatever happens, leave it on the water, just like they say in the, you know, in other sports, leave it on the field, man, or leave it on the battlefield, whatever.
Because Trey and I are going.
We're going tomorrow.
I'm going to talk so much smack.
Mm-hmm.
You're what?
I'm going to talk so much smack to Trey the entire time we're fishing more, and I cannot wait.
Yeah. He's gonna backboat me.
Oh, terribly, because it's flipping bushes, bud. You're
but it's fine. I usually spank him out of the back of the boat.
Yeah, come on now.
But that's that fellowship, man. Yeah. That's that camaraderie. That's that reconnection and stuff. So
you too, Tony. Have a great week.
Thanks, Tony. But yeah, man, I think this was a very important conversation. It's not clickbaity. It's not exciting. It's not what sells, but it's what needs to be heard. Right. I think so.
I agree.
So, and if you don't,
one point on what you were just saying though, you know, about like it being going back and retouching upon why you fish and what, you know, you specifically, Trey, and you know, Pete, you both enjoy like the camaraderie, the peace, the getting away from things. Right. So, I mean, even for me, I'm super competitive. Certain things, like I know how to turn it off and on. It took me a while. But when you're competing at such a high level, like you're up here, and when you even come home, like I'm still up here as far as like the intensity. And sometimes I'm like, my friends are like, whoa, dude. Like I got to bring it down. Like I need to just calm down and just like have fun and just take it and, like as such. Cause like you get in that mindset where you're just up, and you're constantly like in that mode, like attack, like you're ready. Right. And you gotta reconnect and make it, you got to remember why it's fun and why you do it. Like you were saying, it is so much, fishing is so much fun. It's such a great sport. It's such a great pastime. And, we all kind of lose that sometimes in the sense of if we get super intense into tournaments, which tournaments are fun. And I still love the competitive aspect, but you got to put it in its place. I mean, like you were saying, some things are meaningful and some things are meaningless. Like in the scheme of things, it's not really that meaningful in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Here's the tool.
Have it in the proper place where it needs to be, where it's just, you're intense, you're competitive, but you're having fun. And that's what fishing needs to be about. And team tournaments are a great way to do that. I love it. I mean,
they are.
Won the team championship last year, which was a blast. And it was super relaxing. It was like a little club tournament. I mean, that's what it felt like. So just having that, mindset and rekindling and being in touch with that part of fishing is huge. And you guys, I think I see it all the time. And I feel like you guys do a really good job of keeping that too.
We need to put the grandpa seats on the boat. You know what I'm saying? And just sit down.
With the I
can't go there yet.
Pete has. I see it in him. He still gets out there and treats things like a tournament sometimes. But
I don't know what you're talking about.
He's getting a lot better. Tomorrow we can't go over 25 miles an hour.
Wait, what?
Yeah, and
we actually might not want to because I don't know what's floating in Jordan right now, so we may want to take her a little slow.
The only thing I know that's floating is water and fish, and we're going to try to catch some. So, Destin, man, we really appreciate it, dude. Like, I think this is a great conversation. Thank you all for commenting. David Fuchs said that he's blessed to have a good job and supportive wife that likes to also fish, do the same things he likes to do. Tim Trini, appreciate the kudos, brother. We hope all you guys have a great weekend. Destin, do you have any closing comments before we end the show?
No, I think we did a really pretty in-depth job of diving in the weeds on this, and hopefully everybody enjoyed, and hopefully more people get to see and hopefully get some different perspective on things, and hopefully it's not too negative, but honest and truthful.
Yeah.
So, absolutely. Tim, I saw your question. So he answered all of those earlier. This episode, you can go back and listen, and it'll also be, we're going to release it Thursday as a recorded episode. So you can check it out. Yeah. What age did you know you wanted to do this for a living?
7 years old.
6 or 7.
Yeah.
And go back, guys. Go back on, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any of that, whatever you listen to this on. If you listen to the recorded episodes, we've had Destin on a couple times. In his very first episode, he breaks down basically his life story and all that stuff, like getting into the fishing world. So it's a great episode. I challenge every single one of you that's listening and watching and stuff, like, please go to, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, stuff like that. Please leave us a review. Help growing this channel. I don't care about the economy. Pete talked about it earlier. We said it from the very beginning. It doesn't matter what the economy looks like. We don't have to have any money into this thing, which we don't anyways. And we're still going to do this because we want to talk fishing and the outdoors. And we got a really cool guest lined up, Destin, for the future. Actually, I want to make a point of this. Pete talked about the drone stuff going on out in Western North Carolina. One of the former special operations medics who's going to be coming on the show to talk about some outdoor therapy and things like that through different means, not so much the fishing, but mountain biking and drone therapy. She's out in Western North Carolina doing assisting with search and rescue and reconnaissance and stuff like that. So I want to give a huge shout out to Lily. She's out there, continuing to serve, even though she's out of the uniform, man. And then huge shout out to Mike Johns with FX3. He's been part of a big drive down there in Georgia. Was it in Georgia?
Yep.
In Georgia, doing food banks and stuff like that for those who are affected by that catastrophic storm, man. So great job supporting the local communities, and that's really what it's all about, is bringing everybody together. I think this is a great testament, seeing what's happening and everyone coming together for the hurricane relief. And it ties exactly into the conversation we had about like really finding out what's important to us in this life, which has a huge impact on our mental state, emotional state, and all that stuff. So that's all I got. Pete, what you got, man?
There's a skeeter flying around here. That's why I keep looking around.
While he was talking.
Yeah, he's giant. Like that's like a 4-pounder.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, just what Trey said. Just keep everybody in your prayers if that's what you do. Thoughts if you don't pray. Whoever you believe in, whatever you believe in. There's a lot of folks that need it right now. Destin, I'll have all his socials linked in the description and the recorded. Destin, is there anybody you want to shout out before we sign off of here?
Oh man, I mean, just another shout out. I mean, I touched upon it. Just all the people that literally helped me get to the Elite Series. Like it was literally just so many people, just as little or as much as someone did. Like there's just so many things throughout the years that like I couldn't even touch upon them all right now. But like there's just so many good people out there. There really is. And I mean, just like you guys are talking about, everybody helping, in Western North Carolina and stuff, there's a lot of good people out there. Like, don't get it twisted. And there's a lot of good Americans out there. And that's what this is showing is like the support that Americans have, regardless. I mean, if you're an illegal alien or whatever, like they're going to help you. Like most Americans are going to help each other. Like,
don't believe everything you see on the internet.
Exactly. Right.
With how terrible we are as people.
That's too divisive, and that's what they want you to think, but that's not the reality of things. And you guys do a great job. I mean, I wanted to touch on that too. Like,
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Keep grinding and keep putting out good content because I enjoy it.
Thanks, man. We appreciate it. Destin Demarion, all the way from Pennsylvania, is one of our great friends, man. And this was a great conversation. This is going to definitely help us continue growing a culture of anglers, helping anglers one cast at a time.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad. Son. It's a toad, dude.
Yeah.